or not yesterday, but day 1 went for top side. Day 2 today, they went for the bot side instead. So I think it's too early to call what teams are going for, but luckily we are entering the draft phase, so our answers will soon, or our questions rather, will soon be answered.
Get ready for this one. This is going to be a beautiful one. And there we go. Predictions, put it up. Be part of the chat. You're part of the NLC. It's going to be Tryndamere in the mid lane getting removed. It's being used a lot. Leona as well.
That's what I wanted to see 100%, especially due to the high zoning, high immobility ADCs down the bot lane, which both of these AD carries do favor. I think Hecarim was completely out of the question. Somebody who didn't mention at all was Eminence on that Syndra, was an absolute beast in day 1, and he basically all he had to do was press R and somebody would die instantly. So I really love the bans right now. Diana is open, Caitlyn is open, Jinx is open. I would think Diana and Caitlyn do have a higher priority over the Jinx right now, but I'm thinking Dan, I'm thinking you want to make plays. Why not pick the Karma though? I mean, why not pick the Karma though?
Yeah. Why am I wrong? Why not?
I think the reason that the Karma is picked here is because both Caitlyn and Jinx are open.
Yeah,
They're giving X7 the pick on whatever they want to choose. If they choose to go for the Caitlyn Lux lane, if they choose to go for the double poke again with the Jinx, then JDXL can also pivot to an Ezreal Karma lane, which does really well against a double poke. But now they have the chance to put the Karma into the mid lane, to put the Karma into the top lane. Whatever fits them, they can choose to put the Karma in.
I will say though, they still have options like Lulu. I like the fact that they went to the Thresh ban, because in then your logic here as well with the Karma pick to come through, then Thresh was no longer an option that they could thread an AD carry pick with, and what do you know? Lulu gets locked in, and I feel like it's just needed because you need the peel for this AD carry, right? You need the ability to play for them. Last time Nata was playing in hyper carry on the Aphelios, he also had the Lulu to facilitate him.
I love the early Gangplank here. Gangplank was the sole reason why Dusty could not make a push down the bot lane, and I love the Caitlyn here. Caitlyn Karma is a hard shoving, hard poke lane. Lulu can only shield so much, but they are apparently going for the hypercar. So I think this is going to be very juicy. Having the Gangplank, I think Crash had a phenomenal performance on the Gangplank the previous day, on day 1, and he managed to stop any aggression, any type of push that tried to happen in the bot lane. So now I think the Karma Caitlyn lane has an extra layer of protection with the global coming in.
And you can already see the identity now for both teams, because you have the ability to get the Caitlyn rolling down for JDXL. As soon as this Caitlyn is rolling, you start moving her around the map. But the same can be said for X7 instead. If they suddenly start prioritizing their pressure up towards the top side, you now have an Aurelia that can be unstoppable on side lanes too. So it's suddenly all of a sudden 2 different fronts on the map that teams have opened for themselves.
I'm thinking Aurelia could potentially be a mid lane champion.
It can still, you're right.
Vex does absolutely fantastic into that. So potentially, I'm thinking X7 are gonna leave either their mid lane pick or the top lane pick for an R5. Absolutely, they're gonna have to pick the jungler here. There's a bunch of junglers left in the mix. We can see the Lee Sin as well making plays. We've been seeing it the whole time. I'm really liking the Vex ban here, but I was expecting it from the side.
Yeah, it was like
due to the Aurelia. But anyway, the champion is out, and I'm thinking what has been left for the mid lane. You know, we're going back to the Victors, we're going back to the Zoes, we're going back to the long range sort of carries. I like the Jarvan. Jarvan's one of my favorite champions. It creates so much pressure in the early game, and so far I'm seeing, you know, Wombo comp. I'm seeing a Jarvan ult and an Aurelia ult into a super mega death rocket. I was trying to I was trying to differentiate it from the Ziggs ult, the mega inferno bomb, but I got it right. And I'm missing the third element. I'm missing
Whoa!
Love it.
That is crazy.
It is
get by here. And I think that's actually so.
Anyone a fan of Arcane?
Stop.
Caitlyn?
No.
Jinx?
Stop.
Powder?
I don't want it. So we actually have a composition right now from the side of JDXL where you have the ability to poke down. And when they're finally poked down, then you pull the plug with the Vi, where you all of a sudden want to go in here. And it looks like we're getting a decent 1-3-1 composition from the side of X7, but you also have the ability to play for AD carry at the same time. It's a very I'll throw myself in your face kind of composition. It's going to be interesting though, because if they fall behind and you turn into a peel back composition, there's not a lot of peel in these champions. So that makes the side lanes like they need to perform here.
I love this. I love. We're bringing the Korean spice baby. Even though the Koreans are more known for a more laid-back play style, I'm loving this from Tempt. Bringing the Akali back from the dead, together with a very aggressive early game ganking jungler such as the Javan, together with an Aurelia. I'm smelling here top lane dominance from the side of X7. I cannot wrong JDXL either though, because I feel like they have a very well-rounded composition. I think one of the two teams are going to have to stay behind on one of the sides. I feel like the Caitlyn Karma lane is going to have a massive priority in the bot lane, and the top side of the map for X7 is going to be their strong side. So it's going to be like, who's going to snowball harder? The top side of the map for X7 or the bot side of the map for XL?
Will did promise us this time around he was going to be hype. It's game 5 now, so
That looks like hype.
I hope we're getting hype now from him.
It is a promise. Viper Moon, please, it is a promise. This is the game of the week.
Do it.
You have Akali.
Do
you
it.
have Vidali. You have everything on your hands, so give me that hype. I want to see it. Let it go.
All right, everybody, it's the game of the week. It's X7 versus JDXL. It's Viper and Jamada. We got Akali. We got Javan. We got Karma, which, you know, that's a bit dead. But Jamada, let's get into it immediately.
Yes, I'm so happy that we've got this like super like explosive draft coming out from X7. Like you just said, the Irelia, the Akali, the Javan in the mid game, the dives are going to be absolutely crazy. And I'm going to be looking a lot towards JDXL and how they're actually going to deal with so much backline threat. And I think especially like what team is going to, you know, sort of prioritize what, right? Because you've got all of this hyperscaling in the bottom side from Jinx Lulu from X7. Then you've also got this pretty scary threat to deal with in the top lane matchup, because Irelia can absolutely dominate GP if you leave this lane on an island. But at the same time, you don't mind that because it's GP. You've picked him for the cannon barrage, so you can try and facilitate this bottom side. So I'm curious to really sort of monitor what exactly XL are going to put priority on. Are they going to try and, you know, stop these solo laners from going crazy? Are they going to try and facilitate their Caitlyn lane to try and sort of hamper the X7 scaling? And more importantly, well, maybe not more importantly, but we have a Vi in the game, which is a champion we just don't get to see too often.
Someone's been watching Arcane. But yeah, Dan playing the Vi up against Haru on the Javan. This is such a really interesting matchup. Two very heavy ganking junglers who can get a lot of work done. Do you want to talk us through a little bit what to expect from the Vi, just because this is a champion that we don't see that much in competitive play?
Yeah, sure. So Vi, I can't remember how far back it was. It was definitely towards the end of season 11. Got a couple of like quality of life buffs, quite a few. I can't list them off the top of my head, I'll be honest. I should have been looking it up before we got here on the draft. But all around, a little bit of a smoother kit. There were a lot of sort of number tweaks in terms of the way that her ultimate functions and its sort of her targeting in terms of how it deals damage and when it deals damage. So all around, this champion did get a lot of love, but more importantly, it's a one champion lockdown guarantee through the cease and desist ultimate. So Dan gonna have a lot of power once he hits that level 6 mark. Being able to lock down one target in a key fight is definitely a very big deal.
Desist?
I'm pretty sure that's what Vi's ultimate's called now.
It's assault and battery, isn't it?
I'm pretty sure they changed it from assault and battery.
Chat, let me know. I'm not a Vi expert.
I'm pretty confident.
I'm also not looking at chat. Mate, I don't play Vi, but that's if I feel like it was assault and battery at one point though, right? I'm not crazy.
Yes, 100%. It was assault and battery at one point, then they changed it. I'm pretty sure it's still cease and desist. If maybe they changed it back, who knows? But yes. Vi ultimate, very powerful at level 6. It's very, very impressive. And especially when you're talking about, hey, locking down maybe like the Akali in the mid lane, right? Vi ult into the bubble, she doesn't really get to play the game. And maybe you can transfer that a little more heavily into the neutrals, that sort of like 7-8 minute mark. JDXL can snowball something off that. And especially when you should have a lot of priority in that bottom lane, being able to secure a pretty hard winning mid jungle 2v2 can be very, very important.
Also got to remind our observers that we are owed a Hextech Dragon this game, so make sure that that happens for us, if you please, just because, you know, we haven't seen one yet, and we'd quite like to see that one. And all of the ability to move around much faster with the teleportation pads for these quite aggressive team compositions would just be really awesome to watch and see how the teams decide to play around it. But we've hit level 3 on junglers. They're just going to be trading up these Rift Scuttles. You've got to imagine Haru quick on the top one. The bottom one hasn't been started up yet, as the Vi is doing a full clear. Dan wants to make sure he can get maximum value before going to contest that objective. But all of the pressure is on that bot side, as you can see with JDXL having run on the lane. With Caitlyn, with Karma, you're kind of expecting it.
Yeah, exactly. And on Dan's pathing, he knows he's going to get that Skull Crab guaranteed just because the lane stage right now. Looking over the bottom side, you can just see right now, Nata and Kasing, they're going to be under their tower a lot here. I don't expect that to change over the next couple of minutes or so, unless JDXL decide to lane swap out, which right now, I feel like they're pretty comfortable. There's not a massive CS difference between the two AD carries, but certainly having the priority just gives them a lot of freedom to potentially make moves towards the bottom side. And if this mid lane priority keeps up as well, I would expect probably a pretty early dive onto this Jinx Lulu lane once that Cannon Barrage becomes available from the top side too.
Yeah, because you're going to be able to give that assistance. You can't teleport in, well, you can teleport tower, but you can't teleport in aggressively onto that bot side anymore, but you can definitely get involved with that ultimate, which is something that X7 are not going to be able to do unless Aurelia makes a very quick move down to the bot lane to throw hers out. And JDXL have set themselves up really, really well going into this early game. They're playing it very, very well. And now it's on Haru. Is he going to be able to take advantage of this pressure, these extensions, in order to try and get some more conventional ganks down?
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. For me, Haru doesn't really have the greatest of setup in these lanes. It's pretty much just like Irelia, where, you know, you can probably abuse this lane if you really try and full send it up there. But you want to try and make sure that your Jinx doesn't get absolutely put into the ground by this Caitlyn Karma lane. So I expect Haru to, you know, more or less kind of be playing a more protective role, more responsive role, where, you know, take a look at the map. JDXL looks like they're maybe going to play towards the bottom side. You either look for a cross map, which is valuable, or you try and defend the play yourself.
That's interesting. So even though you're a very aggressive jungler, it's still kind of being aggressive and making those early plays, but being reactive and being the one that's protecting your bot lane as opposed to anything else. And Jaeger's just running down Cries right now, getting the damage through. The oranges will make sure the Gangplank stays alive, but this is the power that Aurelia can have.
Yeah, exactly. Aurelia, despite the changes, it felt like quite a while ago, but I don't think it was too long ago, to her kit, still a very, very powerful laner. And I'll tell you firsthand as a Gangplank player, this is one of the most unfun matchups you can get. Misstep once, even if you citrus the stun, you will pretty much just get 100-0 run down. If you make one minor misstep, Aurelia's damage is absolutely bonkers, and Gangplank doesn't really have the kind of stats necessary to stand up to that in the early game. And pressure from Haru, these are the kind of things you need to do. Look at the wave states. Make sure you're always monitoring your lanes and follow up on things like this, where all it takes is your presence, and all of a sudden Cries has to miss half a very, very stacked minion wave. And eventually that kind of CS lead starts to build. Right now, only really 13 in it. I think he's still collecting minions underneath the tower as well. A little bit under 10 now. But all of that pressure from X7 onto the top side, Dan reads it well, goes into the bottom side and picks up that first Cloud Dragon.
Yeah, simple as, and Inferno will be next on the table. Emnes in the mid lane. It's been quite quiet down here. Tempt is behind in farm, but it's melee versus range, so it's kind of what you'd expect. Is this a big problem for Tempt, do you think?
It can be, but I feel like, to be honest, he should be fine in this lane. Like Trouble was saying on the desk, a lot of Korean mid laners are very, very proficient on these kind of assassin picks, so I wouldn't be too stressed for it.
You're not sitting there going, oh no, 13 farm behind, game over, go next.
No, exactly.
It's Tempt.
CS leads, yeah. 1, Tempt. 2, CS leads on Akali don't really matter, or CS deficits don't really matter too much. It's more about the impact that you can get out of your ultimate, out of roams, out of skirmishes. That's where the power of Akali really comes in. And once you start to get really fed, once you come online, then you can start to build or recover some of that CS back, if it's even necessary, really. So that's kind of what I want to see from Tempt for now. Just survive the lane, sit there, get paddle styled a lot. But once you start to get to those early skirmishes around the dragons, around the heralds, now that you've got your ultimate available, just try and find a key target. There isn't really like a whole bunch of peel here from JDXL. It's mostly just the shielding and the tether from Karma, and of course the ultimate from Vi. Can definitely find a lot of easy backlane access, especially when you have to deal with the Jarvan and the Aurelia on top of it.
And we saw JDXL actually the ones pulling the trigger on that lane swap up to the top side, and it was X7's job to react. Aurelia now moving back down to the bot, but it gave Cries a lot of free time to pick up farm and not get back on parity, but shorten the gap a little bit as Jaeger has to move on down. But it's going to be started up top side Rift Herald for JDXL and X7. You can see Haru going back. They're not even going to contest this. There's another free neutral objective going over to JDXL, and they'll be really, really happy with how this has turned out.
Yeah, and this is just JDXL using their lane priorities really, really well to secure these neutral objectives. First that Dragon, now the Herald. They do give it over to Dan. Unlike last game where we saw AD Carry pick up that Rift Herald, Dan will be roaming the Rift with that one. And yeah, so far so good for JDXL. Nothing to really complain about. Definitely a lot of symptoms of the draft so far, paying off a lot for them. X7, you know, we saw a very, very slow-tempered game from them on Monday, right? And I think that was one of the big questions that we were sort of wondering coming into a matchup like this, right? Top of the table, what is expected to be a top-of-the-table matchup come the end of the split. Are X7 going to have this very slow, methodical approach, you know, like we saw against Nairiki? Was it Nairiki? I believe, I think it was Nairiki. Anyway, like we saw from them on Monday. Or are we going to see a slightly faster-paced, you know, hey, we've got almost, let's go, let's send it, we know we're stronger. Let's just put the pedal to the metal and make sure we can actually just take over the game quickly. So far, more of Monday's performance, right, where it's a little bit slower. But I don't think it's the end of the world. You've got the scaling aspect out of the Jinx and Lulu, and you always know when you've got such massive dive threats like an Akali Irelia duo, the squishy targets that are Zoe and Caitlyn, even with a Karma there to back her up, even with the Vi to also provide some level of peel, you're never truly safe on the Rift.
JDXL are really being the ones controlling where lane assignments are in this game. They've moved Zamalek and Kickers back down to the bot side, knowing that they've already taken the Rift Herald and the Dragon is going to be the next thing on the menu. Jaeger is kind of marooned down here and isn't going to be able to get the rotation, but Kazing, Nata, and Haru are going to try and come on through and get something going. But Dan is there. They might have been spotted out as the engage is going to come on through. Nata gets slowed. Headshot coming on down. Are we going to see a Cataclysm coming on through? No, we're not. But Tempt is behind. We saw something very, very similar to this for X7's last game when they came up against Riddle, but Dan is just hanging in the wings. They might know exactly where Tempt is and needs to be careful. Akali diving on through, getting some damage in. The ultimate will land, and here's the engagement coming in under tower. Everyone's still alive. First block goes over to Jaeger. They're going to pick up a second one, a third one, and just like that, X7 take it from 0 to 100. They lose Haru, but they pick up a triple.
It's a mirror of Monday, man. They love these bottom side dives. JDXL, they just can't survive the onslaught of all of this dive. Irelia, Kali, Jarvan Cataclysm is too much. Initially, honestly, very well played from Zamalek. It's not in this replay to sidestep the Glitter Lance because he would have died much earlier than this. But once Tempt is found out in this bush, it's all green to go for this dive right here. The mini-wave hasn't even crashed. They're just willing to go absolutely crazy underneath this tower. Double kill goes over to the Irelia. And I believe Jinx didn't quite get that final kill credit, unfortunately. Did go over to Kasing, but either way, now, Jaeger on this Irelia, super fed, has the Blade During King already. Whilst Cries has an Essence Reaver, it's just not the same kind of first item power spike. So Cries now is going to be in a lot of danger trying to match up against this Irelia in the side lane. And I mean, in general, X7 just gained so much from that in terms of pressure. Generated almost the gold lead. They clawed back what XL had managed to accrue in the first 10 minutes. Now XL, it's all about what do you do to respond from this. It seems like for now, mid lane priority, Herald was dropped in the mid lane. Gold goes into Zamalek's pocket, but they're not feeling confident enough because of the bottom side priority. It looks like Eminez running out of HP and mana to start up that Dragon. So now it gives, honestly, the opportunity maybe for X7 to start helping themselves after they clear out some vision.
And for me, the question is, X7, they were kind of happy to play a little bit further back, a little bit slower, lose a little bit of gold because they have all of these scaling tools. Haru needs to be a little bit careful about hanging out in Pixel Brush when the Dragon is up because members of JDXL are going to be in the neighborhood. But now they've clawed themselves back onto parity and they still have all of those scaling tools. So as you said, it took 10 minutes for JDXL to earn what X7 took away in about 15 seconds. And it doesn't look like they're going to slow down. And now Emnez, no mana, half health. Tempt going to put the damage down. That's for all the bullying in lane, says Tempt as he flashes away. Ignite was burnt as well. But it's simple as that. We're going to get, it's another chem tech, but we'll take it.
Yeah, I mean, it's not quite Hex Tech. I know we was hoping for the port shenanigans, but we'll take a chem tech, Dragon.
We'll take a new one. It's fine. We like these.
Yeah, we like the new ones, but yeah, like we were saying earlier, right? That CS lead that Eminez was building up doesn't really matter because Akali just kind of finds these kind of solo kills in the side lane. and it's only going to get worse as she finishes up her first core item in the Rocket Belt. Gives, of course, extra dash, a little bit of damage, and pen once those legendary items come in. So Eminez on the side lane, he's not going to remain safe for long, and that's kind of my issue now for JDXL as things go on, because they don't win the side lane for quite a while. I feel like there's so much potent dive threat that I don't even know when they'll start to win team fights, if at all, just because the Jinx will eventually come online, and JDXL are going to have their hands full with all of these divers, and Jinx is just probably going to get free reign. So I'm a little bit worried, you know, later on down the line. For now, JDXL, they still have a couple of options potentially to use. I think we really need to see Dan get a little bit proactive here on the Vi and try and help lock down somebody somewhere and try and push an advantage, take a tower maybe.
What can JDXL do is the question, and will they be able to follow it up? Haru has had as we mentioned, has had a slower early game on Java than you necessarily expect from your traditional quick ganking, gotta get involved play. But has been super successful in everything he's done. Yes, he died on that initial triple in the bot side, but was very, very important in making that play happen, and has kept his lanes exceptionally safe. There's only been one death to him so far, and it was him in that play. And for a team that was soaking up so much pressure, and you said dives felt like they were inevitable, has done really, really well to ensure that just hasn't happened so far.
Yeah, definitely so.
Kikis is in trouble. Not a burning blow, actually. He's in the hole. The ultimate coming in from Gangplank does mean that the Wild Grove is going to have to be burnt, but Nata's okay as they move towards Rift Herald.
Yeah, they will move towards Rift Herald for now. A lot burned by JDXL as Cry's trying to harass Haru out of the river here. We'll have backup shortly as recalls coming in the Chem Fog. Actually, I think Lulu almost stopped, but unfortunately will not be. So X7, they call off this Herald staff, and it looks like Dan, with that in mind, knows where everybody is, give or take. Should be able to pick this one up for free. X7, they give up the other Herald. But honestly, given the game state, I feel like they don't necessarily mind. This is a very, very strange game to kind of describe to the viewers at home, because yes, the gold is even, but I really can't put it into words how difficult the game is going to be for a little while for XL to actually try and navigate and find a fair amount of success. After those sort of first opening 10, 12 minutes, you know, they used the priority of the Caitlyn, of the Zoe really, really well to secure all of those early neutrals, but they couldn't really procure a strong enough lead. And now side lanes, this is what I've been talking about, is such a big threat. Cry's forced to flash from the ultimate of Jaeger. But that's the thing, he doesn't have flash now. So the next time that ultimate comes up, if he gets caught in a situation like that, Cry just dies on the side lane, 100%. Eminez, you know, step too far forward, Akali kind of just solo kills you the same way that he did earlier on. Things just look a little bit bleak despite the gold difference right now for JDXL. I feel like the options are starting to run out just a tiny bit. There's still, of course, a lot of hope. There's a lot of time left in this game, and dives can always go awry. But the pressure is definitely on from X7 just because of how these champions want to interact with each other for a very long time.
And for me, it's a case of JDXL did so much right in the first 10 minutes. They did almost everything right. You could say they were commanding tempo, they were making the correct decisions, they were moving around the map, but they didn't get anything massive done. They just built small leads. And X7, as we've already seen in the first two games, and I know it's a small sample size, are the kind of team that can just make a big play. Eminez trying to make a big play here on it to attempt a lot of damage onto the Akali, forcing him to back away. And yes, while Akali can 100-0 the Zoe can do a lot of damage herself.
Yeah, exactly. Zoe, always a culprit of those stray one-shots where, you know, Bubble just randomly catches and all of a sudden the member just dies on your team. That's how it goes. But that's what I'm saying. To me, JDXL, they have, you know, one or two pretty strong pick tools, right? You've got the Vi, you've got the Zoe. Try and find the Bubble. Try and find a Vi ultimate. As Eminez out of mana. Almost clipped by that Q. You almost want to say if Temp lands those shurikens, he might just commit the R just to try and force Summoners out of Eminez himself, knowing that there's no threat of a Sleepy Trouble Bubble. As, yeah, it's what I've wanted to see from XL now for the sort of the mid game, but maybe they're just too scared of the teleports to coming from the Irelia or the Akali. Maybe they just feel like they're out skirmished through and through, and they want to try and wait for their Iron Spikes to come in on the Gangplank, on the Caitlyn, and that's probably their best bet for now.
Dragon should be secured by X7 pretty easily. Third of the game overall, second of the game for them, so we're not going to see a really early soul. And JDXL will just grab the cross-map play, picking up the top tower, which they'll be pretty pleased with as a response. Jaeger needs to be careful. There's a lot of enemies in the neighborhood, but we'll just ult and dive away. Dan not able to land the punches because Sing is there in support, but you've got to feel like both of these teams itching for a fight just a little bit, which at the moment, you've got to favor X7, but JDXL being smart and backing away.
Yeah, I'll be honest, you could kind of tell by Jaeger's posturing. He was at least considering maybe taking a 2v1 if Kasing was a little bit closer with support. You could definitely, in my opinion, see him turning and making a bit of work out of Dan and Kryze there, but makes the right choice, steps away, and no harm, no foul. Bit of a butting of heads, ultimate blown. Nothing more to say about that. Of course, a minute ago, X7 did pick up that dragon. Puts them 2 away for now. And with not too much on the map, you'd expect it to be a little bit quiet. This Herald should be dropped by Dan. I don't think there's really much X7 can do about the tower in the mid lane going down, unfortunately, for them. But it's not really much of a safety net in this game anyway, if you were to ask me. Just because it's going to be more about these dives from those solo laners in the Irelia and the Akali.
Oh, the engage coming on through. They've got him to Kasing. The Lulu has to go golden with the stopwatch as that is taken pretty low. Nats puts the ultimate down and gets the kill on to the Vi. The charge comes through. Haru calling the Cataclysm will fall. And it's actually a 2-for-1 as things stand. Temp makes it a 2-for-2 very, very quickly and looks towards Zamalek. Wants to make it a 3-for-2, but is going to have to turn onto the Gangplank, dancing around in the smoke. Jaeger goes to sleep mid-fight, but the Zap lands onto Mnez. X7 happy with the equal exchange. We'll leave it just at that. 2-for-2 as Mnez dives forward, can't land any more poke, and the fight peters out.
Yeah, definitely net win technically for XL because they get that mid-tier 1. And they get a 2-for-2 on top of it. Dive a little bit too far forward. Rocket plus Cataclysm burst damage is a lot. And that actually really low. Mnez!
Down. Mnez picks up 1. Can actually look for a double here, but the stopwatch keeps Tempt alive. Kasing moving on forward. Can he get to the Akali in time? We'll be able to speed him out, but that's a nice kill for JDXL, and they've started to turn up the pace.
Yeah, nice little pick up there. 2 proactive plays back-to-back here as Bubble just falls short of Tempt. Nice attempt from Mnez to try and find another pick. But we will now get this replay as, yeah, dive comes in after that mid lane tier 1 comes down, almost burst Kasing before he's able to get that stopwatch in. But Mega Death Rocket plus the Cataclysm is a lot of burst in return. However, weren't quite able to find Kikis on top of it. And then on the bottom side, Akali, of course, Tempt slips in and picks himself up a kill, and it's just kind of slowly but surely actually disengaged. And now let's see how they actually find this pick. Oh, okay, Nata's just recalling in fog. Actually gets caught out here and then has picked up flash. Again, chases down that pretty free and slightly mistimed on this bubble. Maybe a quarter of a second if that close, the difference from him finding himself a double kill. Very nicely played from the JDXL mid laner. Built himself a CS lead, but hasn't really been able to find much else aside from that, so nice to at least see him get himself on the board there.
Very nice from Mnez, indeed, and JDXL, they've got themselves a little bit of a gold lead. They've shown that they can still scrap, they can still fight effectively, and they can get picks. So we're really in for a great game here, which is what you'd expect from these two teams at this early stage in the tournament. Kikis gets a bit of damage down onto Nata, who's standing a little bit open and takes a little bit too much damage, but Jaeger is caught in the bot side. 2v1 teleport is going to come through ultimate use for Jaeger. He's just trying to buy as much time as he possibly can, actually cutting through Kryze quite effectively as Temp looks to dive forward, gets the flash. Can he get the kill on Kryze? No, he's kept up by the Vi, but he'll be able to slide away. So much committed, but they can't even save the Gangplank. Temp gonna go over the wall. Jaeger can't do so easily, has the flash, but the kill comes through from Mnez. Zamalek will catch on to Jaeger, who's also in trouble. Dives forward, but goes down. It's a 2-for-1 trade. JDXL back in the game.
Yeah, JDXL not too bothered about this one, if I'm totally honest, considering it's X7. That kind of, you know, overcommit quite a few resources. This is replay of what happened, I believe. Just had the chicken pit whilst all that was happening. Fortunate teleport timing means that he's kind of left to the wayside there, as here we get the cut into the fight. Bubble finds onto Tempt, and Jaeger trying to find what he can, but not much health left, unfortunately, by the end of that fight. You can see everybody itching to get down to that bottom scrap. Not too surprised. But again, wherever you see Akali and Irelia together on the same side of the map, expect blood, and that's what we definitely got out of that skirmish.
Something that's very interesting to remember and to know to Nada and Kazanga walloping is that this Dragon Soul is such a win condition for both of these teams that it will be picked up this second for JDXL, which means that we're going to be holding on to that one much, much longer. But either of these teams in a close game can get Chemtech Soul. That's basically a win in its own right.
Yeah, it's actually definitely, like you say, it's a mini win condition, right? I think if you give either of these teams the ability to res off the back of death, especially some of the champions that have these pretty important abilities to be able to cast again, right? Get one more cast off. It's really, really big danger towards either team, and that ends up losing that soul if we do get to that point. Still 2 dragons away on either side, right? So it's going to be a lot of time before we get to that point, but it can still certainly happen. It's been fairly slow when there's no objective on the map, so hey, maybe we do get to that point. But if leads are, built up here, XL, they've had a gold lead for a majority, or what feels like a majority of the game now, because we've been going almost 25 minutes. About half, I'd say, they've shared a gold lead between 2 teams. If they can get something more going, then sure. I think now that, Gangplank's hit that 2-item mark, Caitlyn on approach to that 3rd item spike, they might have a little more of an answer. That's what X7 have put on the table here as stun connects Citrus Fruit to get away. And then Jaeger doesn't quite have the gap closing abilities to get on top of Kryze in this attempt as okay. Well,
one Jaeger gonna be caught out. There's the hole coming on through as well. Gangplank ultimate was layered and Jaeger will fall. It's easy as that with Dam rotating once again. And it doesn't matter if Aurelia wins the 1v1 because it's never a 1v1.
Yeah, exactly. Dan doing a great job of shutting down this side lane. 1v1, turning into a 2v2 time and time again. And what's extra nice about this is X7 aren't really in the position, whenever these picks haven't been in the position to actually, try and threaten a Baron or try and threaten, a major objective that's, beneficial to at least sort of cross-mapping. X7 have more or less actually been trying to respond to the picks happening on the bottom side themselves. So JDXL, with the first move from Dan time and time again, it's definitely given them more positive results than negative. Just gives them a little bit extra time, though. Thinking about the scaling aspect of these teams, I'm not sure who really takes it. I feel like there's so many, strong points to both of these teams, and yes, certainly weak points, but in some cases they cancel out each other. I think the longer that we get into this game, the more it really is just going to be about execution. There's not going to be X7's comp out scales or JDXL's comp out scales. I really do feel like the team fights, finding these key targets with a Sleepy Trouble Bubble, Cease and Desist, Cataclysm or Akali, is going to be what matters the most here.
And it's hard to call who's been playing the team fights better in this game. Maybe JDXL have... It's difficult because it's all been quite skirmishy. There hasn't really been a big team fight in a fair, neutral position. So the question is, which of these teams is going to perform better under that pressure? 10 very, very mechanically astute players, 10 champions that are going to be able to perform in all stages of the game, really. As you said, neither of these teams really falls off harder than the other. Neither of these teams really scales harder than the other. I'm looking towards Zamalek and Nata to see which one of these 2 players is going to be the one that potentially has the carry pants on, because Caitlyn game is such a big matchup.
Yeah, of course. Caitlyn, once she has all of those items online, it can be very, very dangerous to walk into her range, right? If she's got the rapid fire cannon, maybe a Storm Razor as well. If she can fit that into her build, sometimes it can work, where you just get this massive, sort of 850-ish range war attack, and it just catches people off guard, where it's got so much range attached to it. Sleepy Bubble comes down entirely. I don't think it will mean too much. But
Dan looking, he's found Nata, and he's been polymorphed immediately, and he's in a lot of trouble. Has to flash away, and Nata's going to get the ultimate down with the Cataclysm holding, but Mnez is getting so much damage. Zamalek gets the kill onto Haru, and X7 are going to have to retreat. It's a 5v4 if they continue this fight. And Mnez on a mad one this game helps pick up another. Jaeger running through the fog towards Tempt. Will he be able to get away? The bubble doesn't land this time around as Tempt steps around it, but JDXL even up the kills and take the advantage.
Yeah, definitely like a bit of an audacious engage at first from Dan, but it works out in the end. Haru dives too far forward and isn't able to get back out in time and dies for his sins. Nice little pick up there from XL, but at the end of the day, again, it doesn't really result in anything in this case, much like a lot of the picks that we've seen from what feels like both of these teams for a majority of the game here. Haru's going to be back out onto the map for this dragon, and as you can see, Mnez is resetting just about now, though looks like he's actually going to cancel, I think, realizes it's a little bit too close to the timer. So might be out of mana, might not have a lot of resources to work with here. Maybe there's fruit in the river, I'm not too sure, but he's so low on mana. This is almost effectively a 4v5 if he can't find fruit.
Tempt is going to be called out in a 4v1 if he's not careful, giving lots of respect and backing away with Dan, Kickers, and Mnez all moving forward. But Jaeger has just started up the Baron, which is quite an interesting decision as members of X7 are running towards it. It looks like they could be trying to force trade.
Yeah, they could be trying to force trade. I think they were just going for a sneak here, but that ward just outside of the Chemtech fog is going to spot them out. So JDXL know this Baron's going down fairly slowly. It's going to give XL enough time to make it here. But I mean, it's getting over 3,500 gold.
Gangplank. But what's going to happen? 2.5k. The Dragon has been secured. The teleport coming up through. Can they take it? Yes, they can. But what's the fight going to look like after? Attempts in the backline. Can't kill Mnez, though. And he's going to be forced to back away. Dan won't be so lucky to get out. And it's going to be a 1-for-0 for X7. They traded the Dragon for the Baron. And it looks like that's all she wrote. X7, look for the sneak, make the trade. Are probably happy.
Yeah, I mean, this is now all going to be about how much do X7 actually get off of this Baron, right? Because JDXL being at Chemtech Soul Point, I actually think might be worth giving the Baron. I think the Dragon is that strong. As long as you don't lose that much, genuinely, I think the ability to just resurrect in fights and turn it into a 5v10 effectively is kind of worth it. So I don't mind what XL did in terms of the trade, but I'm definitely kind of confused around some of the commitment around the Baron pit when it came to actually trying to get in after the fact. I don't know if we'll get a replay of the Baron fight itself or not, but yeah, definitely a bit of a strange sort of fight afterwards. I felt like XL, they wanted to commit, but then they kind of didn't because Dan went a little bit too deep. So yeah, let's see how JDXL work with the pressure of, you know, being one Dragon away from that Chemtech Soul, and whether or not X7 can get a lot of value out of this Baron.
Value has to be gained. As you say, normally we talk about the first Baron, you want to kind of take everything outside of the base, but if X7 want to make it worth the risk, worth the fright of going up against the Chemtech Soul in as little as 3.5-4 minutes, they're going to really want to make inroads into the enemy team's base. Jaeger, once again, Dan moving down. It's not a 1v1. The stun has just been used by Aurelia. And there's no teleport available for Tempt, so it will just be a 2v1 unless members move down. But X7 in the jungle, looking to shadow, looking to protect Aurelia more so than they have in the past. But Tempt on the top side, looking to keep the splits push pressure on, but takes a beating from Mnez.
Yeah, you can see Zoe, Mnez, very, very strong at the moment. Very, very powerful. Just the Paddle Star alone practically sends Tempt to half HP. So you can imagine what it would do to Nata. For example, who is a slightly squishier member of the team. Of course, though it does have Kassin consistently pocketing, so in that regard might be a little bit safer than Tempt here on the top side. But X7, nice usage of the Baron so far, just trying to split across all 3 lanes. I think they're doing a pretty good job of upholding pressure here. They will finally secure a tower on the bottom side, and that top side tower getting chunked pretty low as well. I think if they can at least break open the base, they can walk away with this Baron buff itself. Quite happy. To be totally honest with you, though it seems like XL, they're sending appropriate members towards the top side. They will lose this mid-tier one, but I think that was almost always going to be a matter of time, and they're all excited off the tower. A lot of damage off that one rocket onto Zamalek, man.
They will be able to break open the base with the top inhibitor tower falling. Jaeger still keeping the pressure up in the bot side. Tempt! You can't take another one of those to the face, and Tempt realizes it's going to be running, but so is Zoe with the U-moves popped. I think Tempt is not long for this world. Goes golden with the Zhonyas, but there's the bubble, and actually over the wall, almost escapes. Jaeger actually putting some damage on the bot side, but goes down. Christ surviving. So all of the side lanes are lost, and the rest of X7 are chasing on to Zoe. The Baron has fallen, and there's the teleport coming up through. Can Haru cancel this one? Yep, they can. They can get the shutdown onto the Jarvan. And with that Baron falling off, one inhibitor tower taken, is that worth it?
I think it's all right. I don't think it's too terrible for X7. Mnez runs down Tempt in the long run. Made a bit of a noise. I was expecting that bubble to just about land, and on the bottom side, we get a cut in here as you can see Kryze was in grave danger, backed up by the rest of his team, however, and makes it one out alive. And Mnez almost, maybe a second more, and he's out. But unfortunately, can't make the great escape. Now we sit 60 seconds away from what could be Chemtech Soul if JDXL do pick it up. I mean, they're only 1k gold behind. Looking at the items in general, I mean, we're almost pretty much at parity across the board. We're sort of seeing at like 3.5 items for the mid laners, the solo laners both actually. Kreis has 4 items completed, so he is in theory a little bit stronger than Jaeger is on this Irelia. AD carries almost even, but actually it's Zamalek with an item lead over now. So this is a fight that XL, you know, item to item, you know, sort of pound for pound, they're technically stronger right now, if you ask me. I think it's going to be all about how they keep Akali in check and how they keep this Irelia in check. And now Bubble.
Oh, they're diving on through. Jaeger has to go gold, and so much damage coming on through. Dan's taking a beating as well. Needs to back away, but it's going to be the Irelia falling first. Nana in the backline goes down. No, he doesn't. He's still standing. It was someone else who fell. As Zamalek's chased away. Look at him. His assassination cannot do it. It was Kasing who died for Nana's sins as Jinx survives a second longer. Haru and Tempt both full health. The 2 Korean imports. They're going to look to take the fight. It's a 3v3 as Haru goes over the wall. Nana gets sniped out! Emnes, you beauty! Securing that one as Tempt, and Haru need to stop 2v3. This crucial objective going down. Dan smites for health, goes in with the ultimate that was held on to Tempt. Haru trying to back away. Akali can't get out. Look, he's getting into the fog, diving over the wall, diving back in for the kill, and now it's a 2v2. This game's on nervous. Emnes diving out. Bug gets taken down. Kickers is the last one standing, but it's just a karma. Double kill for Tempt, and it's X7 who turn onto the dragon.
Tempt absolutely manhandled JDXL with that 2v3. That was absolutely crazy to end down that fight. Dodging and dipping outside of the Akali Shroud, that was absolutely crazy. And because of Tempt's hard work, they are going to deny the Chemtech soul. And now both these teams, one dragon away from that point. And not only that, because of the outplay, I believe X7 can potentially eye up this Baron. I think it's going to be a little bit audacious with Nat coming in from base, but Jaeger's got the teleport and he's got a lot of DPS to actually work this one down. And with the death timers being so long for XL, this should be a Baron secure from the zone. They get to pressure the base even further.
Why is Tempt playing in ERLs? How is that reasonable? I don't understand. X7 on the Baron, there's no contest. They also set themselves up for Chemtech Soul, so if we get 5 more minutes, then we're all going to have heart attacks over that objective. But just Emnes is a monster, Tempt is a monster.
Both these mid laners. It's both of these mid laners right now. They're playing out of their minds. Emnes is finding such key bubbles and snipes. First, it's onto Jaeger to kick off this fight. It doesn't quite go the way that they want it because somehow Zamalek ends up in the backline. I don't know how this happens, but at the end of the day, it's Akali that finds the shutdown onto her. And then eventually we get into this really wild 3v2 situation. We see the bubble come in again, but it's another snipe plus Gale Force of all things dropped on the floor for Emnes to find the snipe. And then Tempt and, of course, Haru, 2v3, the mid-jungle imports against JDXL. And I mean, look at Tempt's movement here, man. Dodging, diving, making sure he practically never gets hit by anything that's directly a skill shot after the initial bio. Absolute crazy outplay coming out from the Korean import of X7. And I mean, they reap the rewards. They reap them heavily. Baron, Chemtech denial, and now they get to siege onto the base yet again.
Yeah, Caitlyn has set up some traps, going to try and defend as much as possible. Of course, there's an open inhib in the top side, if that's something that X7 want to look at, but it looks like they're just going to be plowing down mid. Gonna get a couple of auto attacks to take down that tower. Nata is excited, and they've got the minion wave here. Haru gets engaged onto Zamalek, though no way out of the cataclysm. Damage coming on through. Nata just doing too much damage, and just like that, when you thought the comeback might be on, it just is not. X7 are gonna take the win here. They've got all they need, and they're gonna remain undefeated.
It wasn't clinical, but it felt it towards the end of that game. X7, they end up demolishing JDXL in some of these later game team fights. And I mean, quite frankly, I just love the draft, the game plan coming out from the get-go, right? All of this crazy dive onto the Caitlyn where, you know, JDXL, they tried to draft pretty reasonable responses, I feel like, but I just feel like the answers weren't always there. When you started to actually get this dog pile on, it was just too much. And I mean, Tempt had that final Chemtech Dragon fight. It was just absolutely crazy. I don't know what else to say. That was one of the sickest team fight outplays I've seen in a little while on that champion. And off the back of that team fight, realistically, they close out the game because of it.
I mean, Tempt's so good. It doesn't seem reasonable. Fortunately, we're going to be throwing to a quick break. When we come back, it's going to be the post-show where we're going to be talking to the whole X7 roster. So don't go anywhere. We'll see you in a few minutes.